What's going on, people? Myke C-Town here with a different and a special kind of video. So today is the 30th birthday of The Cure's 8th and best album, Disintegration, which came out on May 2nd, 1989. And it's incredible to think that this album's been around for this long. I wasn't into The Cure when this album originally came out. I got into these guys in high school, and I discovered this album around 9th grade. You know, I'd heard singles, of course, but never a whole album. But I picked up this cassette at a thrift store, and it wasn't what I expected. I think I thought The Cure was just this super happy and silly and goofy band, but I had absolutely no idea what their songs were really about. And the way this album opens up with the bells and the chimes and this incredibly lush sound, it blew me away. The fact that this song was named after chants used in Western churches, it makes sense because this song has such a deep religious feel to it. The song is a back and forth between Robert Smith and a person that we can assume would be a significant other. There's no hooks, there's no chorus, just this beautifully sad back and forth. And it opens with the lines, "I think it's dark and it looks like rain, you said, and the wind is blowing like it's the end of the world, you said, and it's so cold, it's like the cold if you were dead, and then you smiled for a second." It's someone relating their emotional state with the way the weather is, which is just beautiful to me. Once you get that picture in your head, the music itself makes you feel like you're standing outside in a rainy or a stormy day. Somehow the band was able to perfectly convey this idea through the music. Then it moves into one of my favorite Cure songs of all time, and that's Pictures of You. This great strummed guitar riff, the really pronounced bass that Simon Gallup became known for. It's just this infectious riff. It's a song of regret, you know, looking at images of your past and thinking about where you were when those images were taken, staring at these images so much that you start to overthink about the time when these images were taken. It's a story of what appears to be like a failed relationship. You know, Robert Smith sings about how he wishes he could have done something to keep that special someone with him so he wouldn't have to resort to simply looking at pictures of them. It's another beautifully sad song that's so much sadder when you really analyze the lyrics. And it's great how it continues this idea of rain. Remembering you standing quiet in the rain as I ran to your heart to be near. The next song I have to talk about, of course, is Love Song, one of The Cure's biggest hits in their catalog. And what makes this song so interesting in the context of this album is it's one of the few songs that kind of breaks up the doom and gloom mood of the album. It's a fairly straightforward love song that Smith wrote for his wife, Mary. And it's interesting because he's expressed later on that he's not that big of a fan of this song. He thinks it's the weakest song on this album. So it's funny that it became one of the most popular songs on this album. But I never thought twice about it fitting in. Even though the album is a very sad album, I think it's sad in the realm of love lost. So how can you lose a love that you never had, right? So I kind of feel like a love song was necessary to this album and its theme, and putting it at the front of the album makes sense when you listen to the rest of it. And sonically, if you don't pay attention to the lyrics, I feel like it sounds like such a sad song, you know? The really light synth sounds that go along with the verse and the bass riff that kind of moves the parts along, the sad guitar chords, you know, it's not your typical happy-go-lucky love song. It's the absolute saddest way to tell someone, however far away, I will always love you. However long I stay, I will always love you. Whatever words I say, I will always love you. And speaking of songs that don't quite fit in, let's talk about Lullaby. While I love this song, like I love every song on this album, I never quite thought that Lullaby fit in on this album. Granted, the theme of the song is about a Spider-Man that sneaks into the window of sleeping children and eats them. Or alternatively, it's a song about drug addiction. And you kind of get that from the lines. And I know that in the morning I will wake up in a shivering cold and the Spider-Man is always hungry. So even though the theme of the song is rather dark and gloomy, I always thought that the song sounded much more uplifting than the other songs on the album. With its playfully pitched guitar parts and the synth sounds, it doesn't sound quite as sad as the other songs, but it's still an amazing song. Next, we gotta talk about Fascination Street. Is that bass line not one of the most iconic bass lines in rock and roll? It's just so damn good. And the guitar work is fantastic too. It's so melodic and catchy. And even though it was written about Bourbon Street in New Orleans and their adventures there, it's a song that can be related to just about any crazy city. You know, whenever I go to New York, I swear to God, this is one of the first songs that pops into my head. Prayers for Rain. What an amazing song. Continuing the idea of rain that began with the first song, it's just so good. I remember when I first got this, I got it on cassette, and this is the song that began side 2, and it's one of the dreariest songs on the entire album. You know, this absolutely dreary guitar riff, the synths, they all come together to create this atmosphere that is just so bleak, but it's gorgeous and epic at the same time. I always took the whole idea of praying for rain to mean praying for rain to come and wash away all the pain and depression and desolation that Robert Smith was going through at the time. You fracture me, your hands on me, a touch so plain, so stale it kills. You strangle me, entangle me in hopelessness, and prayers for rain. That's just my idea though. I could be completely off the mark, but it doesn't really matter because the song is just amazing. Next, I have to talk about the song Disintegration, which is my #1 favorite Cure song of all time. I can literally listen to this song over and over and over again. The way the drums come in, the bass lines, the synth lines, the guitar work, it's all just so perfect. To me, it seems like a song about a person's drug use, leading them to ruin a relationship, ruin a family, ruin their lives, finally realizing that this whole process may kill them in the end. And I've never been a drug addict, but you can substitute the idea of being a drug addict for other things that might be detrimental to you, namely depression or anxiety. But this song, to me, has the absolute best lyrics on the whole album. And I gotta recite this part to you guys because it gives me goosebumps every single time I hear it. It's my absolute favorite moment on this album. Round and round and round, and it's coming apart again over and over and over. And now that I know that I'm breaking to pieces, I'll pull out my heart and I'll feed it to anyone. I'm crying for sympathy. Crocodiles cry for the love of the crowd, and 3 cheers from everyone. Dropping through sky, through the glass of the roof, through the roof of your mouth, through the mouth of your eye, through the eye of the needle. It's easier for me to get closer to heaven than ever feel whole again. It's the moment that he's coming to the conclusion that everything around him is absolutely falling apart. It's easier for me to get closer to heaven than ever feel whole again. It's easier for him to literally die and go to heaven than ever feel like he belongs on this earth, with or without someone. It's peak gloom and doom, Robert Smith, and it's just so wonderfully written. The last song, Untitled, is probably one of the most bleak songs you'll ever hear. The guitar part gets stuck in your head very easily, and the drum fill that goes along with it is definitely a star of the song. And the final lines to this song, the final lines to this entire album are some of the saddest lyrics I've ever read. Hopelessly fighting the devil futility, feeling the monster climb deeper inside of me, feeling him gnawing my heart away hungrily. I'll never lose this pain, never dream of you again. I feel like these lines perfectly summarize what's going on in this album. Depression and desolation, isolation, the loss of love, and it's done with music that is insanely unique. The way Robert Smith and The Cure composed the music here is nothing short of fantastic and genuine and special. And what was so special about this band and this album in particular is for someone who went his whole life feeling like a weirdo and feeling like someone who didn't belong anywhere, anywhere or didn't fit in anywhere. This was an album that said you are absolutely not alone. Not only are you not alone, you can be special in spite of everyone telling you that you're not special. You know, you can fit in here in this musical space regardless of not fitting in anywhere in the real world. It's hard to explain, but that's the reason that I love this band so much. That's the reason that I love Robert Smith so much. They were instrumental in my becoming comfortable with not being status quo. You know, Robert Smith in particular, with his crazy hair and his makeup and his incredibly soulful and dejected lyrics, did a lot to make me feel normal being a weirdo. And the most amazing thing is they were doing it within the pop sphere. You know, of course they were post-punk, they were shoegaze, they were alternative rock, but they were also working in the pop world. And Trent Reznor put it great when he said that The Cure were changing the norm from the inside. And I thought that that was just a brilliant sentiment. This is a band and an album that could never be mimicked without being instantly noticeable. An album that is so important to my life that there's no way that I could live without it, and there's no way that I'd be alive without it. And I'm stoked to be doing this video talking about it 30 years after its release. And if any of you have not heard it, I hope this video makes you want to go check it out. And yeah, if you do, make sure you come back and tell me what you thought. And if you've already heard this album, let's talk about it down in the comments section. If this is not your favorite Cure album, go ahead and tell me what is your favorite Cure album so I can tell you that you're crazy for not saying Disintegration. All right, so happy birthday to Disintegration, an album that Robert Smith wrote while turning 30, an album that is turning 30 today, a brilliant album that you're robbing yourself if you have not heard it. So yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed this, but as usual, thank you for living, thank you for loving, thank you for being you, and I'll see you guys next time. All right, peace out, boy.